On the night of the Chikshi Festival, my husband Ethan Moore and the company he co-founded, Moore Corporation, once again dominated the local trending searches. The headlines called him the most romantic CEO ever. The reason was simple. Ethan had ordered an extravagant bouquet of red roses for every single employee in the company, regardless of gender. The media praised him endlessly, saying he had great vision and a warm heart, that he was the kind of boss every employee dreamed of having. My phone was buzzing non-stop with messages from friends and family. "Emma, your husband is amazing. I'm so jealous of you. Ethan Moore is such a perfect man. You must have saved the galaxy in your past life to deserve him." As I looked at those messages, my fingertips turned cold. I opened Bella White's social media page, Ethan's assistant, and her latest post said it all. It was a photo taken at a high-end Western restaurant. Ethan was holding one of the company's standard bouquets of roses, but he had deliberately parted the petals to reveal a large sapphire ring hidden inside. The caption read, "Received the first bouquet of the night. Someone always finds an excuse to send flowers just to prepare a special surprise for me. Thank you, boss." The moment I saw it, my heart clenched. That ring, I recognized it immediately. It was the one-of-a-kind tear of the deep sea, a sapphire I had fallen in love with 3 months ago at a jewelry auction. The starting bid had been $5 million, but a mysterious phone bidder had driven the price up to $8 million and taken it away. So that mysterious buyer was my dear husband. I scrolled further down Bella's posts. 2 months ago, she had posted a picture captioned, "The first milk tea of autumn," along with a screenshot of a $52,000 transfer. The payer was Ethan. Her comment read, "Thanks, boss. The milk tea is so sweet." A month later, she posted another photo, the first strawberry ice cream of summer, accompanied by a 30-day paid high-temperature leave voucher issued by Moore Corporation. The signature at the bottom, strong and elegant, was unmistakably Ethan's. The comment section was filled with envy and admiration. "Oh my God, is Moore Corp hiring? Is it too late to send my resume now? What kind of dream company is this? They hand out money and vacations. Bella, what kind of good karma did you build in your last life?" I knew about the milk tea and ice cream gifts that were sent to all employees, but that $52,000 transfer and a 30-day vacation? As the boss's wife, how could I not know? In Bella's newest restaurant photo, the man sitting across from her was only partially visible, just his chest and tie, that dark blue diagonal striped tie. It was the one I had personally tied around Ethan's neck this morning. The angle of the photo was intimate and suggestive. The tip of the tie brushed faintly against Bella's chest. A wave of nausea surged through me. Forcing myself to keep the last shred of composure, I dialed Ethan's number. When he picked up, I could hear background noise, music, clinking silverware, and a woman's soft, flirtatious laughter. "Hey, Emma, what's wrong?" Ethan's voice was as gentle as ever. "I'm working late at the office. There's an emergency meeting tonight, so I might get home a bit late." The lie rolled off his tongue so naturally, it almost hurt. I gripped the phone tighter, my nails digging deep into my palm, but I kept my voice calm. "Really? Then could you take a picture of the meeting room for me right now? Mom just called, asking how we're spending Chikshi. I want to post something on social media to keep her from nagging." He hesitated for a moment, clearly not expecting that request. "Emma, don't be ridiculous. I'm in a meeting. Be serious," he said, his tone already tinged with impatience. "Oh, a meeting?" I let out a quiet laugh, though it didn't reach my eyes. "Funny, I thought you were with your assistant Bella, wearing that $8 million tier of the deep sea ring." The line went dead silent, and I could picture exactly the look on his face drained of color, his voice faint through the receiver. I said his name slowly, each word sharp and heavy as iron. "Ethan Moore," I said, my tone calm but laced with a weight that could crush him. "You have 10 minutes to show up in front of me. Otherwise, I'm afraid tomorrow's trending search won't be about the most romantic CEO, but about the president of Moore Corporation cheating on his wife with his assistant." Before he could respond, I hung up and tossed my phone onto the sofa. Outside the window, the city lights flickered like shards of ice. For the first time, the skyline of the empire Ethan and I had built together looked cold and piercingly bright, stripped of all warmth. Less than 10 minutes later, The sound of screeching tires tore through the quiet night. Ethan's car skidded to a stop in front of the villa like a raging beast. He burst through the door, breath uneven, a thin layer of sweat glistening on his forehead. His tie was crooked, his usual polished composure gone. The handsome face that the media always praised was now filled with panic and disbelief. "Emma, please, let me explain," he began, the same tired opening every cheating man uses. I sat motionless on the sofa, not even looking at him. Without a word, I turned my phone screen toward him. On it was Bella White's social media post. "Go on," I said coldly. "Explain it. Why is your tie in her photo? Or maybe explain why you used our joint assets to buy her an $8 million ring." My voice was calm, too calm, and that terrified him even more. Ethan was used to me being gentle and compliant. He had never seen me like this, composed, icy, and deliberate. He stepped closer, trying to grab my hand, but I shifted slightly and avoided his touch. "Emma, it's not what you think," he said quickly, his voice trembling. "Bella and I were innocent. That ring was just a company reward. She performed exceptionally this quarter, closed several major projects for the firm. She earned it." "Oh, really?" I finally lifted my eyes to meet his, a bitter smile curling at my lips. "And which major project required you to personally deliver her a reward to a fancy restaurant?" "Hand-delivered, no less?" "Tell me, Mr. Moore, since when did our company's reward system change? As the largest shareholder, how did I not get the memo?" Moore Corporation might have carried his name, but he seemed to forget one thing. Half of the company's shares were under my name, Emma Shaw. "If my father hadn't invested everything he had to help you when you were drowning," I said, my tone turning razor sharp, "do you really think you'd be standing where you are today?" My words hit him like a blade, slicing straight into his pride. Ethan's expression darkened immediately. The one thing he hated most was anyone bringing up the fact that his success had been built on my family's money. For years, he had worked tirelessly to craft his image as a self-made business genius, conveniently forgetting who had saved him when he was nothing. His hand twitched at his side, fingers unconsciously tapping against the seam of his pants, a nervous habit he'd had since college. He always did that when he felt guilty or cornered. "Emma," he said, voice softer now, desperate. "We've been together for so many years. You'd rather believe some misleading photo than believe me?" He was playing the emotional card now, tone thick with wounded innocence. "Believe you?" I let out a short, humorless laugh. "Ethan, our love died the moment you slipped the tear of the deep-sea ring onto another woman's hand." I stood up slowly, step by step, until I was standing directly in front of him, staring into his eyes. "I'll ask you one last time, what exactly is your relationship with Bella White?" He stumbled back slightly, eyes darting, retreating under the weight of my gaze. We're innocent," he stammered again, the same hollow words over and over. "Good," I said quietly, nodding once. "Very good." I reached toward the coffee table. I reached down and pulled out the document I had prepared long ago, then slapped it against his chest. "Since you're so innocent," I said coldly, "then sign this supplemental clause in our loyalty agreement." Ethan lowered his head to look at it, and his face instantly went pale. The black text on white paper was crystal clear. If Party B, Ethan Moore, engages in any act of infidelity during the marriage, including but not limited to maintaining improper relationships with another person, or giving away large financial assets, Party A, Emma Shaw, has the right to demand that Party B leave the marriage with nothing and unconditionally transfer all Moore Corporation shares under his name to Party A. "Emma, what's the meaning of this? You've been investigating me?" Ethan's voice suddenly rose, his usual calm demeanor cracking wide open to reveal anger and humiliation beneath. "I don't need to investigate you," I said evenly, my voice as cold as steel. "I'm just giving you a chance to prove that your so-called innocence is real. What's the matter, Mr. Moore? Afraid to sign?" This wasn't really a test anymore. It was a direct confrontation. Signing meant admitting he'd never dare cross the line again. Refusing meant he was already guilty. The air in the living room thickened until it felt suffocating. The only sound was our uneven breathing. I looked at his face, dark and uncertain, and a deep sadness spread through me. The man who once ran across half the city on a freezing winter night just to bring me a bowl of hot porridge, that boy was long gone, buried beneath time and ambition. Ethan's eyes were locked on the document, his chest rising and falling sharply as though a storm raged inside him. "Emma, do you really have to make this so ugly?" he asked through clenched teeth, forcing each word out. "Ugly?" I gave a hollow laugh, one that sounded more like a sigh. "You're the one who made it ugly, Ethan. You're the one who threw away my dignity and my family's name for another woman to trample on, and now you have the nerve to ask me why I'm making it ugly." "I told you, it was just a reward," he insisted, still clinging to his excuse. "A reward?" I cut him off sharply. "Then tell me, why did everyone else get milk tea, but she also got a $52,000 transfer? Why did everyone else get an ice cream, but she got a 30-day paid vacation? Ethan Moore, do you really think I'm some naive fool you can toy with?" With every word I said, his face grew paler. He thought I would never find out about the details. He thought his lies were seamless, that by hiding behind the facade of company benefits, he could conceal his filthy little secret. He opened his mouth but couldn't get a single word out. Watching him struggle for an excuse didn't make me feel triumphant, only unbearably tired. "Sign it," I said quietly, pushing the pen toward him. My tone allowed no argument. "Sign it, and I'll pretend none of this ever happened. We'll go on as before, playing the loving couple in front of everyone." "And if I don't sign?" he asked, lifting his head. His eyes flickered with something sharp, defiance mixed with fear. I met his gaze without flinching. "Then tomorrow, we'll go to court. We can discuss the division of marital property and the dilution of your company shares. Tell me, Ethan, how many points do you think Moore Corporation's stock price will drop when the world finds out about this?" That was the final blow. Moore Corporation was everything to him. His pride, his lifeblood. He could lose me, but he could never lose the company. With a furious motion, he snatched the pen from my hand. He gripped it so tightly that the nib scratched a long, jagged mark across the page. His eyes locked onto mine, burning with hatred so deep it looked as if he wanted to devour me alive. And yet, in the end, he bowed his head. At the signature line for Party B, Ethan Moore scrawled his name in a messy rush. The moment he finished, he slammed the pen and the document down on the coffee table with a loud bang. "Are you satisfied now, Emma?" He sneered. "Does it make you happy to tie me down with a trick like this? Whether it makes me happy or not isn't up to you," I replied coolly. I picked up the signed document, blew gently across the still wet ink, then slipped it into a folder and locked it away. "Remember what you signed tonight, Ethan," I said, my voice calm but edged with steel. "From now on, if I ever find out that you and Bella White have any improper contact whatsoever." I paused, stepped closer to him, and straightened the crooked tie around his neck. My movements were soft, almost tender, but my words cut like ice. "I'll make sure you're out of Moore Corporation for good." Through the smooth silk of his tie, I could feel the tense muscles in his neck. He stared at me, his eyes full of mixed emotions, anger, resentment, and something else I couldn't quite name. "All right," I said at last, patting his shoulder lightly, as if nothing had happened. "It's late. Go take a shower. You've got a board meeting tomorrow. Don't let anyone see you look worn out." Then I turned and walked toward the bedroom, leaving him nothing but the sight of my back, cold, decisive, and final. I knew this battle was far from over. Ethan Moore wasn't a man who would surrender easily. Signing that agreement tonight was nothing but a temporary retreat. In his mind, he was already calculating how to strike back. But I had been preparing for this for a long time. "Ethan, you think I'm still that woman who revolved around you? You're wrong. You're the one who taught me what cruelty really means." The next morning, I woke up early. I did my makeup carefully, sharp, flawless, professional, and chose a well-tailored Chanel suit that gave me a commanding presence. By the time I went downstairs, Ethan was already sitting at the dining table. There were faint dark circles under his eyes. It looked like he hadn't slept at all. When he saw me, his gaze flickered for a moment before returning to its usual warmth, as though last night's confrontation had been nothing but a dream. "Morning, Emma," he said with a faint smile. I didn't answer. I simply walked over, sat down, and started eating my breakfast. The tension in the air was so thick it could have dripped from the walls. Finally, he spoke first. "You don't need to come to the board meeting this afternoon. I'll handle it." "Of course I'm coming. I said evenly, dabbing the corners of my lips with a napkin before looking up at him. It's an important meeting. As the major shareholder, how could I possibly be absent? He seemed relieved for a second, though his tone shifted as he tested the waters. Then, about Bella White's promotion. I almost laughed. So that's what he's been waiting for. Bella, the woman he couldn't stop protecting. Her quarterly performance had been strong, and he was planning to recommend her promotion to Deputy Director of Marketing at today's meeting. I think that appointment deserves some discussion, I said lightly. Ethan's expression darkened. Why? Her capabilities are obvious to everyone. She's brought tremendous value to the company. Promoting her is the right thing to do. Really? I set down my knife and fork, leaned slightly forward, and looked him straight in the eyes. Tell me, Ethan, has she brought value to the company, or just emotional value to you? Emma, don't forget, I continued, my tone hardening, the company's name might be Moore, but it's also Shaw. If I don't agree, that promotion isn't happening. Emma Shaw, don't make a scene, he said through gritted teeth, lowering his voice as if trying to warn me. Make a scene? I rose from my seat, meeting his glare head-on. I looked down at him from where I stood, my tone calm but absolute. You brought this on yourself, Ethan Moore. Either you make her leave Moore Corporation, or I'll see you in court. Your choice. Without waiting for his reply, I picked up my handbag, turned on my heels, and walked out of the villa. The sharp clicks of my heels echoed behind me, final and cold. I knew he wouldn't choose the second option. The boardroom of Moore Corporation was heavier that day than it had ever been. I sat beside Ethan, my expression composed and unreadable, listening in silence as each department gave their reports. When it was the marketing department's turn, Bella White walked confidently to the front of the room. She wore a perfectly tailored business suit and flawless makeup, radiant, self-assured, completely unaware of what was coming. After her report, Ethan cleared his throat and spoke. Bella has performed exceptionally well this quarter, he said evenly. Thanks to her efforts, we've secured a strategic partnership with Huachuang Group. I propose promoting Bella White to Deputy Director of Marketing. The moment his words fell, the room filled with soft murmurs. Everyone knew Bella was Ethan's favorite. His proposal wasn't a surprise, but it didn't mean it would go unchallenged. I tapped my fingers lightly on the table. The crisp sound cut through the whispers, drawing every gaze in the room toward me. I object, I said, my voice clear and sharp. Ethan's face darkened immediately, his expression twisting into barely controlled anger. Bella froze, staring at me with wide eyes filled with confusion and wounded innocence, as if she couldn't comprehend what was happening. Miss Shaw, one of the board members, a man who'd always been friendly with Ethan, finally spoke. Everyone here knows Miss White's capabilities. Don't you think this might be a little inappropriate? Inappropriate? I smiled faintly, reached into my handbag, and pulled out a stack of documents. Then I'd like everyone to take a look at this. I compiled it myself last night. I handed a copy to each board member. They accepted them hesitantly, confusion flickering across their faces, until they opened the files. One by one, their expressions shifted from curiosity to shock. Inside were detailed records of every special benefit Ethan had given Bella since the day she joined the company, all under the guise of corporate rewards. From the $52,000 milk tea subsidy to the 30-day paid vacation, and finally, to that $8 million sapphire ring, each transaction was clearly documented, complete with transfer records and supporting evidence. Ladies and gentlemen, I said, my voice echoing clearly through the silent boardroom, cold and precise. Our CEO has been using company funds to provide excessive personal benefits to his assistant. I'd like to ask, does this align with Moore Corporation's financial policies, or has everyone here enjoyed the same special treatment? No one dared to speak. The tension in the room was suffocating. As for that partnership with Huachuang Group, I continued, if I recall correctly, the early negotiations and project planning were handled entirely by the marketing team led by Mr. Ray. So tell me, how did all the credit end up belonging to Miss White alone? My eyes fixed on Bella's pale face, sharp as a blade. Miss White, would you care to explain to everyone here exactly how you managed to secure such a difficult client all by yourself? Was it over drinks, or somewhere else? My words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Bella's face flushed a deep red, her lips trembling. I didn't, she stammered, tears welling in her eyes. She looked pitifully at Ethan, silently begging for him to save her. But at that moment, Ethan Moore was a drowning man himself. He could barely protect his own position. The skeptical stares from the board members closed in on him from all sides. He could feel the tide turning against him. Enough. He barked, slamming his hand on the table as he shot to his feet. This is my personal matter. It has nothing to do with Bella White. Every decision was made by me. He wanted to take all the blame, to shield his precious Bella one last time. But I wasn't going to let him. Oh, your personal matter? I rose to my feet, meeting his furious gaze head-on. Tell me, Mr. Moore. You used company funds to pay for your personal affair, I said, my tone icy and precise. That's called embezzlement. Tell me, Ethan, what do you think will happen if this gets reported to the Securities Commission? Ethan swayed slightly where he stood, his face drained of color. For a moment, it looked as though he might collapse. I met his eyes and, word by word, delivered my verdict. I propose that Bella White be immediately dismissed from all positions at Moore Corporation and that every asset and payment issued to her in violation of company policy be recovered in full. At the same time, an internal audit team should be established to thoroughly investigate Mr. Moore's financial conduct during his tenure. I looked around the table. Does anyone have any objections? There were none. The outcome of the board meeting was exactly as I had expected, inevitable. With evidence that undeniable, no one dared to side with Ethan. Bella White was terminated on the spot and ordered to return all ill-gotten gains within a week, a total exceeding $10 million. Ethan managed to keep his title as CEO, but his financial approval rights were suspended, and he was placed under formal investigation by the internal audit team. In other words, he'd been stripped of all real power. When the meeting ended, he stormed back to his office and exploded. He smashed everything within reach, glass, paperweights, files, like a caged beast thrashing against its bars. His roar echoed through the room. Emma Shaw, you destroyed me, he shouted. You'd ruin me over some woman who means nothing to you. I stood by the door, watching his rage with a cold detachment. The man before me felt like a stranger. Some woman who means nothing. I repeated, my voice cutting through the chaos. Tell me, Ethan, wasn't she your exception? He froze, unable to speak, veins bulging in his temples. His bloodshot eyes locked on mine with fury and helplessness. What do you want from me? He growled, breath ragged. I don't want anything, I said quietly, stepping closer until we stood face to face. I'm simply taking back what's mine. This company isn't yours alone, Ethan. You have no right to use my money to support your mistress. I don't, he tried to protest, but I cut him off with a glance. Don't bother lying. You know the truth better than anyone. I was too tired to argue anymore. From today on, I'll be overseeing all company affairs directly. You'd better cooperate with the audit team and stay out of my way. I turned to leave. Emma, he shouted behind me, his voice cracking with fury. You'll regret this. You'll regret it, I swear. But I didn't look back. Regret had vanished from my vocabulary the moment I discovered his betrayal. In the days that followed, I moved swiftly and decisively. Moore Corporation underwent a total restructuring. Every one of Ethan's loyalists, those who had helped him deceive me, covered for his affair, or manipulated company operations, were transferred out of key positions or quietly dismissed altogether. It was nothing short of a full-scale purge. Ethan, stripped of real authority, could only watch helplessly as I dismantled his power piece by piece. He tried several times to speak with me, to negotiate, but I refused to see him. As for Bella White, her fall was far harsher. After being officially dismissed, she became the subject of public outrage, branded a homewrecker, and accused of embezzling company funds. Her reputation in the industry was destroyed. No firm dared to hire her. The $10 million she owed loomed over her like a mountain, crushing her completely. Every asset she owned, her apartment, her luxury handbags, her jewelry, had been gifts from Ethan, all of which now had to be liquidated or repossessed. Overnight, she fell from the glamorous position of the CEO's favored assistant to a disgraced, penniless woman despised by everyone. One evening, my phone rang. Her voice trembled through the line, choked with sobs so desperate it almost didn't sound human. Emma, please, she cried. Please, I'm begging you, just let me go. Chairwoman Shaw, I know I was wrong, I really do. Please, I'm begging you, have mercy on me, give me a chance to live. Give you a chance to live? I repeated, listening to her broken sobs through the phone, and all I could feel was irony. When you were happily spending my husband's money, driving the car he bought, sleeping in the house he paid for, did you ever once think about leaving me a way to live? I truly love Ethan Moore, Bella stammered, still trying to defend herself. I let out a sharp, cold laugh. No, what you love is his money, his power, the attention that feeds your vanity. Stop pretending there's anything pure about it. My tone turned hard as steel. If you can't repay the money within a week, I'll see you in court. Before she could say another word, I hung up and blocked her number. With people like her, mercy is nothing but cruelty to yourself. I thought that would be the end of it. But I underestimated both Ethan's shamelessness and Bella White's desperation. A week passed. I didn't get the repayment. What I did get was an online firestorm aimed straight at me. Overnight, countless gossip blogs and paid accounts flooded the internet with scandalous rumors. They said I came from a lowly background, that I used dirty tricks to marry Ethan and climb the social ladder. They called me a scheming gold digger who oppressed her husband after marriage, a manipulative, venomous wife. They twisted the truth about how my father had once helped Ethan start his company, claiming instead that I used my family's influence to force him into marriage. They painted Ethan as a pitiable man who had lived under my control for years, too weak to escape. And Bella White, she was suddenly reborn as some kind of modern heroine, a brave, independent woman who dared to stand up against my supposed tyranny. In no time, public opinion flipped completely. I went from being the victim to the villain. Thousands of strangers who knew nothing about me flooded my social media with insults and hate. So she's the vicious wife, and he's the poor husband. I misjudged Mr. Moore. This woman is terrifying, using her husband like a tool. Support Bella. Stand up against this corporate witch. Reading those vile comments, my hands trembled with fury. I didn't even need to think to know who was behind it, Ethan Moore. He was weaponizing public opinion, trying to destroy my reputation and force me to surrender. He knew me too well. He knew the one thing I cared about most was my family's name. Just then, my assistant knocked on the door, her face pale. Chairwoman Shaw, something's wrong, she said anxiously. We just got word. Several major brands we've partnered with for years have announced they're terminating their contracts with us, and the company's stock. It's dropping fast. Ethan's counterattack had come sooner and harder than I expected. He wasn't just aiming to ruin me. He wanted to burn Moore Corporation down with me. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. I understand, I said. Leave me for a moment. I need to think. My assistant hesitated, worry written all over her face, but eventually nodded and stepped out. Now alone, I walked to the floor-to-ceiling window. The city below was a blur of headlights and movement. My reflection stared back at me, steady, cold, unyielding. Ethan Moore, I whispered, if you think this is enough to destroy me, then you've seriously underestimated who I am. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I hadn't called in years. A man's low, slightly husky voice answered. Hello? It's me, I said quietly. Emma Shaw. There was a pause. Zach, I continued, my voice firm, I need your help. The man on the other end was Zach Hahn, one of my late father's former scholarship students, now one of the top private investigators in the country. Reserved by nature, but brilliant at what he did. I gave him a concise rundown of everything that had happened. Zach was silent for a moment, then said simply, No problem. I'll dig up every bit of dirt on Ethan Moore and Bella White within 3 days, Zach Hahn said on the phone, his voice calm and confident. I guarantee what I find will be 100 times more explosive than the garbage they've been spreading online. Good, I said, hanging up. Determination flared in my chest again like a fire reignited. Ethan Moore, Bella White, your show is over. It's my turn to take the stage. Zach's efficiency was astonishing. In less than 3 days, an encrypted file appeared in my inbox. When I opened it, what I saw made my blood run cold. The file contained dozens of photos and videos of Ethan and Bella, caught in intimate moments at different locations. Company events, hotels, even our own home. There were audio recordings too, vile and explicit. In those recordings, Ethan's voice was dripping with indulgence and sickening affection. "Don't worry, Bella," he said tenderly. "Once I kick that old hag Emma out, more corporation will be ours. That woman, besides her money, what does she have? She's old, boring, lifeless. You, my Bella, you're sweet, soft, perfect. Just wait a little longer, baby. Soon you'll be my wife for real." And Bella's voice, delicate and syrupy, answered, coaxing him further. "Ethan, when will you finally divorce her? I don't want to keep sneaking around like this. Are you sure transferring that company money to me won't be a problem? What if she finds out?" "Relax," he whispered back. "I've already hired a team to flood the internet. They'll drag Emma's name through the mud and make her the villain. Once her reputation's ruined, she'll leave with nothing." Listening to their disgusting exchange, I felt my heart freeze solid, like it had been submerged in ice. I had once believed Ethan was simply blinded by infatuation, that he'd fallen into a passing temptation. But I was wrong. They had planned everything, carefully, deliberately, plotting to destroy me and seize everything I had built. "Well done," I murmured bitterly. "A perfect pair of vipers." But that wasn't all. The deeper I read, the more shocking the revelations became. Bella White was no innocent college graduate from a modest family, as she had claimed. She had dropped out of high school, spent years drifting through nightlife circles, had cosmetic surgery, and even worked as a high-end escort. Her personal life was chaos. From the very start, her relationship with Ethan had been a calculated con. And Ethan Moore, the man the world admired as a brilliant entrepreneur, was no better. Behind my back, he had secretly invested in multiple ventures, all of which failed miserably. To cover the losses, he'd embezzled massive sums from company funds. His urgency to promote Bella wasn't just about lust. It was because she had brokered a connection with an underground loan shark. She'd helped him secure a high-interest loan to temporarily patch the financial hole he'd created. His smear campaign against me was meant to distract me, to ruin my credibility before I could uncover the truth. Once I was discredited and ousted, he planned to consolidate control of Moore Corporation, use the company's assets to pay off his debts, and walk away unscathed. A perfect escape. A flawless crime. "Brilliant, Ethan," I whispered to myself. "You really do know how to play the game." I shut the file, the fury in my chest burning hot enough to consume me. But I forced myself to stay composed. Anger could wait, strategy couldn't. I organized all the evidence into separate folders. One set went straight to my legal team. Another set, encrypted, I sent to a trusted financial journalist I'd known for years. Then, I opened my social media app. I posted a single photo, an old picture of Ethan and me from our college days. In it, he was wearing a faded white t-shirt, smiling shyly, pure and sincere. I was leaning against him, my eyes full of affection. My caption was short, simple, and sharp as a blade. 10 years of marriage, 1 moment of ruin. "Ethan Moore, may your future shine bright." It was my final farewell to him, and my declaration of war. That post was like a stone dropped into still water, sending waves rippling through everything we'd built, shaking the world that had once belonged to him. Everyone could sense that something unusual was about to happen. And when Ethan Moore saw the photo I posted on social media, he completely lost control. He called me over and over, flooded my phone with messages, pleading, demanding, raging, but I didn't answer a single call, didn't reply to a single text. The more frantic he became, the calmer I felt. The next morning, my legal team officially filed for divorce in court and applied for an injunction to freeze all of Ethan's assets. At the same time, the financial journalist I'd contacted published an in-depth exposé titled "The Capital Scam Behind the Charming CEO: The Shocking Secrets of Moore Corporation." Every piece of evidence Zach Han had uncovered was laid out clearly in that article. Ethan's affair during our marriage, his embezzlement of company funds, the enormous loans he had taken from illegal lenders, and Bella White's falsified background and scandalous personal life. Every word of it was a hammer blow, smashing down on the two of them with devastating force. The article spread across the internet like wildfire. The public, who just days ago had called me a malicious wife and social climber, instantly changed sides. Ethan Moore and Bella White, get out of the business world. Poor Emma Shaw, she didn't deserve this. The worst man and woman in history. Within hours, hashtags about them dominated the trending searches, ranking far above the old, most romantic CEO headlines that had once glorified him. Moore Corporation's stock price plummeted. Within 10 minutes of the market opening, it hit the lower limit, and trading was suspended. Countless business partners called to terminate contracts and demand compensation. Banks arrived one after another, demanding early repayment of loans. The business empire Ethan had built so carefully over the years was crumbling, collapsing in less than a single day. He completely broke down. He stormed into the company, trying to reach me, but the security guard stopped him at my office door. Like a madman, he screamed and pounded on the glass. "Emma, come out here." He roared. "You evil woman, give me back everything." "Emma, I was wrong. I swear I was wrong. Please give me another chance. Let's not get divorced." I sat at my desk, separated from his hysteria by the thick door, listening to his shouts, his sobs, his curses, silent, expressionless, unmoved. A chance? He'd already had it. He lost it the night I discovered his betrayal, on that Chixie festival when he and Bella plotted to destroy me. From that moment, every chance was gone. My assistant entered quietly, nervous. "Chairwoman Shaw?" she asked carefully. "Should I call the police?" I shook my head. "No, let him make a scene. The bigger the better. Let everyone see what kind of man their so-called dream CEO really is." Ethan's tantrum lasted until the afternoon. In the end, the police arrived and took him away for disturbing public order. As I watched him being dragged out by two officers, disheveled, shouting, eyes wild, I felt nothing. "Ethan Moore," I thought, "you planted the seed yourself. Now you get to taste the bitter fruit." His downfall was even more devastating than I expected. Embezzlement, misuse of company funds, illicit income, sky-high loan interests compounded beyond control. With multiple charges combined, the sentence was heavy. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison. "Serve your time well," I told him coldly when I heard the verdict. 15 years from now, maybe you'll see a different world." I didn't look back at him again. As I walked away, his broken cries echoed behind me, raw and desperate. But I never turned around. My life would never pause for that man again. The first year after the divorce, I poured all my energy into my work. I renamed Moore Corporation to Shengwan Group, erasing every trace Ethan Moore had ever left behind. I initiated sweeping reforms, cutting off all unprofitable projects, introducing new investments in technologies, and leading the company's transformation into the renewable energy sector. It was exhausting, countless sleepless nights, endless challenges, but the results were astonishing. 3 years later, Shengwan Group went public. Its market value skyrocketed tenfold, becoming one of the fastest rising stars in the industry. And I, once known only as Mrs. Moore, had become Miss Shaw, the CEO in my own right. As I stood on the stage during the bell-ringing ceremony, flashes of cameras glittered before me, and faces filled with admiration looked up from the crowd below. In that moment, my heart swelled with 1,000 emotions. There was a time I truly believed happiness meant marrying a man who loved me, raising a family, and living a peaceful life. But reality had struck me with its harshest blow. It was that betrayal that ripped away my illusions, forcing me to see the ugliness hidden within human nature. But it was also that same betrayal that made me understand something profound. A woman's greatest strength never comes from a man, it comes from herself. Only when you are strong enough on your own can you truly control your destiny and face any storm without fear. After the ceremony ended, I received a text from Zach Han. "Congratulations, Chairwoman Shaw. You finally found light after all the darkness." I smiled faintly and replied with just 2 words. "To us both." Over the years, Zach had stayed by my side as a friend, quietly offering help, support, and wisdom. Somewhere along the way, our relationship had begun to change, becoming something softer, warmer, something I hadn't felt in a long time. But I wasn't ready, not yet, to start another love story. I turned off my phone and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window. Below me, the city shimmered with golden lights, 1,000 homes glowing like stars across the night. I stood there for a long moment, watching, breathing, feeling the calm power of it all. I knew then, my life was just beginning. From now on, I would walk my path with strength and clarity, alone if I had to, and never look back. The end.